Water pump's got a problem. Somebody may have put one in it, an aftermarket one, and it's failed. So I'm gonna have to take this motor apart. Inspect the water pump, which runs off the timing chain, is buried under all of that. Both valve pan covers, this intake plenum. So the first thing I did was drain the antifreeze out of it. Went ahead and took the cooling fans out. It's pretty simple. Two 10mm screws and unplug it from that harness, and they slide right up out of there. Kind of have to work it around that hose to get it out, but it'll go. The radiator hose off the top and move that aside. I'm going to go ahead and get the air cleaner out of my way.
We'll also, of course, hear a ton of classic metal because that's what we do inside the hangar. Starting with Metallica, from Master of Puppets, it's Battery.
Bunch of leaves done in there. One bolt. A little leverage. Help it out. Help me out. One of the reasons I choose to go for the water pump, besides it not circulating, or at least what led me to check it for circulating, was that this sensor was reading 145 degrees while the reserve tank was boiling over. Since they mount the temperature sensor out on the water outlet pipe, by the time the head overheats and the antifreeze is getting heated by conduction, because it's not circulating, it's just heating up from the head up to this water outlet and then down to this sensor. It's what the sensor's reading is way behind the actual temperatures. So that tells me that the coolant wasn't circulating through there. And I clearly didn't have any circulation after I pulled the hose off the heater core. So when you fill this full of antifreeze and you're bleeding the air out of it, don't depend on the temperature gauge to tell you if it's circulating or not, because it's going to be late if it's not circulating, and you'll be cooking the motor in the meantime by the time the temperature gauge, if it ever does, gets up to boiling or overheating. So I wouldn't run a motor for more than 3 to 4 minutes and check. First thing I check is see if it's got heat in the car and that the heater pipes are hot. If they're not, and you've run the motor for 3 to 4 minutes, you should check it for air intrusion or release this bleeder, or the actual head temperature is going to be exceeding service limits and possibly damaging it. So if you can't get the air out of it, pull one of the heater pipes off the back while it's running, slip it off with a rag around it, and the antifreeze will come flowing through. You might pinch the one hose off and let it push through the heater core. The hose you pull off, just clamp down some vice grips or something and let the water push through the heater core, and once it starts coming out, slip the hose back on it. I should get the air out of it. I don't know why they put this temperature sensor throughout here, but it's just like any of them. I guess the coolant flows up to this water outlet and then goes down, and the heater pipe goes through underneath the intake to the heater core, so it keeps a closed loop with this pipe The sensor's actually in that pipe heading down to the heater core through the center of the engine. Now, if it's not circulating, this sensor isn't going to pick up the actual temperature of the heads. So be advised. So the next thing, I'll take this intake plenum off. I'm going to unplug everything. Slide these red tabs back and pull it off. That's going down to a knock sensor, so I can't remember what that plug-in goes down underneath the intake on the motor. I'll pull the brake booster hose off. Clip on the transmission stick. There's two support brackets here on the side. One's there and one's back here. Just reach in through the front with a 13mm and loosen the bottom of them up. These are 10mm up here. And they should just kind of fall out of the way. Let's take some bolts loose and see what happens. Jeez. There's your typical 2.7 stuff. General rule, anytime the intake port's rooting, cover them up. Or you'll end up with things done in there you don't want in there. It'll be a bad day.
Make this holiday perfect at Lowe's. Never stop improving. Lowe's contest ends August 31st, 2014. No purchase necessary. Offer below yield prohibited. See official rules.
Take all these coils up too.
Wednesday will be hometown day.
These clips are brittle too usually. They're really mash them down. I usually just prop them up, latch up in the front, and I just kind of help them in the back a little bit. I've seen them last better. I wasn't going to unhook the injectors, but I suppose I could to get the wire harness out of the way.
Download our mobile app. Keyword Ohio Best. Sponsored by the Ohio Department of Veteran Services. Cloudy skies today.
For noise suppression on this radio, I suppose. Gotta come off. There's a ground wire too, stacked on it on this one. Let's start on the valve covers. Well, I took all the coils out and the bolts loose on the valve pan covers. See if this one's sludged up like most of them are, but if you keep the oil changed in these, they don't sludge up at all. I've got one with 90,000 on it I redid. I just changed the oil on it every 3,000. Well, that don't look bad. A little bit of sludge in there. Somebody wasn't doing the maintenance. bad though. Not as bad as many of them I've seen. I'll roll this thing over. See if the tensioner's maxed out or not. 21mm crank bolt. Oh man, that's the old style chain. That's gonna be problematic.
In just a few minutes, face no more. Rockwood at 5.
No, the chain's not wore out. That tensioner, if the chain gets wore out, you'll see a line etched right where that piston meets the base. When it's reached its max wear limit. Once that happens, it needs chains or it'll jump time and bend all the valves, intake valves anyway. So that's a plus, but that's the old style chain. And getting a factory replacement water pump's gonna be a problem, because they don't make them anymore. The new chain's more like that size chain. This is an 05. I don't understand. Unless somebody's put an engine in this thing and it's older. They would have had to change the cam sprockets. For the newer next generation computer it's in it. And a flywheel. That's old style chain in it. Should have had a new style chain, I would have thought. The water pump's down there in the middle. You can't see it yet. I hate reusing these tensioners. There's a random chance they'll fail, and if they do, the valves will be bent again. Well, next thing will be to take the accessory belt off. Then the dampener. And get in there and see what's going on. They make a special tool to pull this dampener off. It's like a big claw, and then different length pins for different dodges. Go inside the crankshaft and bottom out, and then the tool presses against this, and the claws grab these. And I'll just use a GM dampener puller and a couple of claws I got from another tool. And it does a lot of different vehicles, not just Dodges. Alright, I got my jig mounted. See if this dampener will come off of there. I'll tell you what, always, if you're in here around the radiator and you don't pull the radiator, put a piece of cardboard between where you're working and the radiator, or you'll have an unlucky, odds are you'll have an unlucky experience, and a costly one. A little longer bolt in there. Just GM dampener and some claws. I've used that so many times I've had to kind of square these fingers up once in a while. The little suckers are tough. They really took a beating. I've had 2 or 3 pullers do bad. Claws always survive. Alright, you were an outfit. Yeah, I don't know, this bolt is 4 inches long. Went ahead and removed the tensioner arm. The timing cover consists of a row of 10mm bolts, sandpaper to crank around the seal, not the dampener, but the seal part is rusty, and sprayed some lubricant on it. And it takes a T40 Torx bit, 13mm, two 13mm bolts that goes through to the water pump, and one 15mm behind this fixed pulley. And the timing cover has got some pry points up here at the top. But it's not bad. I'll finish taking these bolts out and get in there. Set the timing marks, but in general, this arrow will be pointing at about 12 o'clock, and so will this hole. There's a dot right there. It points about noonish, and that arrow is pointing to a dot that the chain's hiding. Right under that link right there. Both of them, the general neighborhoods, they're both pointing up. There'll be a mark on the oil pump housing that you line the mark on the gear up with. I had one of them gears, several of them gears laying around here. Yeah, here's one of them. This mark will line up with a mark on the oil pump at about, I don't know, I think it's probably about 3 or 4 o'clock. Sitting about like that, I guess. Line that up, and then these will be where they're supposed to be. This car ran fine, it was just overheating. Now I'll probably lock the camshaft down with vice grips or something, because they are a little unpredictable. And this is definitely an interference motor, and if you don't locate the pistons and you let them cams jump, you're going to have a problem. Alright, let me pull this cover off. Well, the timing cover's off. There's the water pump. Super nice. There's the timing marks. And they should be there. It's really kind of interesting that the actual collared links are almost in their original places. Then double links goes right at where that arrow is pointing. And there's another collared link is on the mark on the crankshaft right there. But there's no way of getting around taking the tensioner out, because it's covering the water pump, the arm is. So went ahead and took the 10mm bolts out, took this cap off. All three of these plugs got to come out. They got a 10mm Allen head in them, about like a 3/8. I got the camshafts locked with vice grips against the prevailing direction it's going to want to jump in. So the lobes are off to the right on them and this set. So the camshafts are going to want to turn counterclockwise, so I got the vice grips locked, and on this side the lobes are pushing them clockwise. So I got them locked with vice grips clockwise. Those are straight jawed vice grips. I really not had the curved jaw that really don't bite on like it should. What you think is the opposite of the way it should be, but these straight jaws hold good. And dislodge that tensioner. That's going to have an O-ring replaced on it. Best thing to do, when you take that cap off, oil's going to run out. And lay a shop towel to catch that tensioner. a clean one, reasonably clean. Actually, I'd say a lint-free one would be preferable. Stuff that up underneath that. When the tensor comes out, it'll not fall out and get damaged or hit the floor. Let's go ahead and pull it on out of there. Nice. That ball bearing will have to be depressed to compress this thing, but not very far. It'll damage it and have to buy a new one. May end up putting a new one in it anyway. Here's the wear indicator. If you see that, you need a new chain when it's installed. Alright. All the guides have to be removed because they're clamped on the water pump. Two of them are here. And this is covering the water pump, and this arm's covering the water pump. So all the guides got to be taken out.